Some of you may remember that I recently posted a video regarding the demo for SD Gundam Battle Alliance. In that video I expressed how annoyed I was that the game wouldn't be getting a physical release in the West, and I said that I wouldn't be buying the full game. So what's going on here? Well, this was a game that I really wanted to play and review on the channel, so I took a chance and reached out to Bandai Namco. After some back and forth, they explained to me how limited their review codes are, but they still accepted my application. I really didn't expect anything to come out of it, with them being such a massive company and this being such a small channel. But wouldn't you know it, they got back to me with a code for the deluxe edition of the game on PS5. I've actually had the full game for a while now, and I have to say it was extremely hard to put down. It's one of those games that managed to get its hooks into me, kept me playing, and funnily enough, it still hasn't let me go. Even after you see this review, I guarantee you that I'll still be playing it and enjoying it. It's not perfect, mind you, but my god, is it fun. So what is SD Gundam Battle Alliance? Well, it's an action RPG that features a hybrid combat system which mixes elements of spectacle fighter games and hack-and-slash titles. It also contains a large playable roster of popular super deformed mobile suits from across the Gundam universe. The entire premise of the game involves a non-canonical story which has the player correcting broken events from close to every Gundam timeline or series. We're talking everything from the original Mobile Suit Gundam to Zeta, Seed, Stardust Memory, F91, Wing, Turn A, and a whole lot more. I won't be spoiling the particulars of the story, but the narrative follows two characters who exist outside of the Gundam universe who are attempting to repair breaks or changes to the original story. It's a lot like the Time Patrol missions from the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games. You'll need to select your favourite mobile suit from the ones that you've unlocked and delve into a variety of missions in order to fix the issues within the timelines. Each mission in the game exists in two forms. You've got the break missions and the true missions. Break missions are generally the ones that you play first, allowing you to experience the what-if scenarios and storylines that never actually happened. Once you've beaten a break mission, you'll usually unlock the true mission, which plays out in the way that the original timeline should, and then once you beat that, the problem is considered fixed. Sometimes the break and true missions will unlock in an odd sequence, such as a break mission in Chapter 5, unlocking a true mission in Chapter 3 or something similar. Later in the game you'll unlock the ability to play Chaos missions which cycle in and out of availability. These missions always have some kind of rare mobile suit to take down which gives you the blueprints to unlock that specific suit. These are generally a bit more difficult than normal missions, but you do reap better rewards. When a Chaos mission is active, it can be played freely at no cost, but you can also acquire Chaos keys by completing any Chaos mission. These keys allow you to play any Chaos mission you want, even when they aren't currently available. This screen that you're seeing here is the main menu, and everything that you need can be accessed from it. The mission option at the top is where you select the mission to play. MS Settings is where you can select, upgrade and equip your mobile suits, and Skill Set is where you select and set your pilot skills. Items is where you can view or sell your acquired materials. Partner Info is where you can view all of the partner or assist characters in the game, and Multiplayer is where you can join up with other players for some co-op action. The library is your basic gallery mode, and I think the other two options are pretty self-explanatory. That said, it is worth noting that the PS5, Xbox Series X and PC version of the game does include ray tracing. There's a setting in the options menu that allows you to select the intensity of the ray tracing by prioritizing frame rate or visual fidelity. I always went for frame rate myself, but you do have the choice. It may not be clear in the beginning, but there's actually two different levels that you need to consider. You've got the player's pilot level and each individual mobile suit's level as well. The player's pilot level is sort of like your overall rating, and as it increases you'll unlock various pilot skills. You start the game with one skill slot available, and later on you can unlock another 2 slots at level 15 and 30. The skills themselves unlock at regular intervals and grant the player a whole host of useful effects, such as decreasing the time it takes to heal yourself or increasing the radius of explosive attacks. The XP that you earn from battle, which is called Capital in this game, is handled in a different way to what you might expect. If you decide to play as the RX-782 Gundam and then complete 3 missions with it, that Gundam doesn't automatically obtain that XP. It goes into a sort of pool which you can then use on any mobile suit that you've unlocked. So even if you've maxed out a specific suit, you can use them to blast through some missions in order to get some XP to give to another mobile suit that you want to level up on the side. At first, each mobile suit is capped at level 15, but as you progress through the game, you'll acquire these items that allow you to increase the cap multiple times. These items are gated by the story, so you won't be able to just obtain level 3 uncapping items until much later in the game. There are 3 different types of mobile suit in the game which which are Infighter, Sharpshooter, and All-Rounder. It's probably quite obvious what these all mean, but Infighters are better up close, Sharpshooters are better at range, and All-Rounders are decent at both. As you destroy enemy suits and complete missions, you'll gather a ton of items which can be installed or removed freely. The amount of items you can install is gated by the level cap, which means that when your cap is 15, you'll only be able to install one. But when you execute your first uncapping, you'll be able to install a second one, and so on. It's important to understand that the items do have a type, which is denoted by a colored symbol. For example, you might obtain 2 HP boosting items you want to install, which both increase your HP by the same amount. However, if your mobile suit is a sharpshooter, you won't be able to install the item unless it matches. Sharpshooter items can only be installed into sharpshooter mobile suits, and so on. Each item can drop with up to 3 effects, and the variation on them is rather large. From my experience, the effects are usually good, but some items can roll with negative effects as well to help balance out powerful drops. Earlier on I mentioned that you can obtain blueprints which unlock the roster of Gundams and standard mobile suits. Battling ace pilots throughout the missions and taking down the final bosses at the end of missions nets you blueprints. Each and every mobile suit in the game requires these to unlock and become available for use. Some are very easy to obtain and can be unlocked in a single mission, while others require multiple playthroughs of the same mission or multiple playthroughs of multiple missions. The blueprints are numbered in such a way that you'll require a specific one a certain number of times. To give you an example, Wing Gundam Zero might only require you to obtain Wing Gundam Zero blueprint number 1 4 times. However, another suit might require you to obtain blueprint number 1 3 times, blueprint number 2 4 times, and blueprint number 3 4 times as well. This can further be gated by only allowing a certain number of blueprints to drop in a given mission. You might need 4, but the mission only grants 2 maximum or something similar. In terms of gameplay and combat, it functions like a slower spectacle fighter game with some hack and slash elements. Each suit has its own moveset, including a basic combo, a heavy attack, a main ranged attack, 2 unique attacks mapped to L1 and R1, a super attack, and a guard. The basic combo varies in length and speed depending on the suit that you're using, as does the heavy attack. If you're on the ground, you can hold down the heavy attack button to unleash a launcher which knocks the enemy into the air. You can then follow that up with some aerial attacks. If you hold down the heavy attack button while in the air, your suit will simply perform a powerful strike. You can also hold down the basic combo button in order to execute a spinning slice, which can cut low HP enemies in half. Pressing either L1 or R1 will unleash some unique attacks which use a cooldown system. The RX-782 has a bazooka shot and a beam lance attack, although unlike the lance, the bazooka gets 3 shots before entering cooldown. Once your SPA gauge is full, you can execute a powerful super attack by pressing L1 and R1 together. They vary wildly from suit to suit, but they all hit pretty hard. You're actually allowed to bring 2 companion or partner suits with you into each mission, and you can order them to use their super attacks by pressing left or right on the D-pad. Your primary ranged weapon can be fired by pressing the right trigger and should really only be used while locked onto the enemy. After you've spent a certain amount of ammo, the gun will enter a cooldown, and then after a short while, it'll be ready for use once more. All cooldowns can be checked at the bottom right of the screen. To guard against incoming attacks, you simply hold down the left trigger. However, you can't guard forever, as every hit you take deals small damage to your suit and decreases the guard gauge. Once the gauge is fully depleted, your guard will break and you'll be left wide open to attacks. If you manage to guard at just the right time, you can perform a perfect guard, which absorbs all damage if it's a ranged attack. If instead you perfect guarded a melee attack, you'll essentially perform a parry and hit the enemy hard, dealing a decent amount of damage. All ace pilots you fight will have a red health bar and a blue bar underneath it. The blue bar represents what is effectively super armor, or as some people know it, hyper armor. While this blue bar exists, the enemy suit will not stagger and can basically poise through all of your attacks. That bar can actually recover if you stop dealing damage, but if you manage to empty it completely, the enemy will enter a guard broken state, allowing you to knock them around, launch them into an air combo, and hit them with everything you've got for a short time. Any attacks that you make to the back of an enemy also hit for more damage. The same is not exactly true for larger bosses, but they do have weak points that you can target for the same increase in damage. Pretty much everything I've mentioned in combat besides super attacks and a few other actions require a portion of your boost gauge. This is the small round gauge that you see to the left of my mobile suit. Think of it like a stamina bar from the Souls games. Most actions including dodges and attacks require this gauge, and when it's empty, you won't be able to do anything except walk around. It does regen very quickly when out of combat, and it exists purely to limit your combos from becoming infinite or unfair. When leveling up your mobile suits, you'll notice that the boost gauge is one of the 4 options that you can upgrade, the others being HP, melee damage, and range damage. The level of the suit is strongly tied to the stats, meaning that you can't just pick and choose what you want to level up. You actually have to increase all stats equally to increase the level of the suit. There isn't really much build crafting to be had, but you can adjust stats through installing items, and it's worth pointing out that each suit does have its own starting stats and a moveset to consider. Lastly, you'll be given a set amount of repair kits per mission, and you can heal yourself with them by holding down on the D-pad. You don't have to buy these kits or anything like that, they're just given to you at the start of each mission. If you get downed while you have a repair kit, you can self-revive, but if you don't have any spare, you'll have to rely on your partners to revive you. If they end up getting down too, well, that'll be the end of the mission. SD Gundam Battle Alliance releases today on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. The game will only be available via download in Western countries. However, you can import an Asia English copy from somewhere like PlayAsia if that's an option for you. There is a demo available on all platforms if you want to try it before you buy it, and while your progress in the demo is capped, you can bring it over into the full release if you decide to pick it up. So what did I personally think of the game, and what are my opinions on it? Well, overall, I found it really hard to step away from. Even as I'm writing this review, I can feel myself wanting to go back and play some more. There are a few elements that bothered me here and there, and some things that I would have liked to have seen included in the game, but in general, I had a great time with it. There is one thing that I do want to address. I find it inexcusable and frankly ridiculous that this game doesn't have a physical copy in the West. Bandai Namco is a huge company and they're charging full price for this game, not to mention the upcoming DLC, so why isn't there a physical copy for the people that want it? Don't get me wrong, the game is good and I do definitely like it, but this does feel really quite greedy to me. I mean, the Asian version of the game literally has English menus and subtitles, so why not just release it? The only reason I can come up with is that they wanted to save money on the production costs, but I'm sorry, you don't get to do that on a full price release when you're a huge corporation. If the game's price point was maybe half of what it is now, then fine, I could actually understand that decision. But with the situation as it is, it just doesn't sit right with me. And look, I know a lot of people don't care about the whole physical games thing, but there is a lot of people that do, and we really don't want you to stop making them, so there you go. So then in terms of the game itself, I honestly think it's excellent. I suppose being an existing fan of Gundam would be ideal, but I think you could enjoy this game even without any knowledge of the series. I myself would have preferred the game to deal with the standard looking mobile suits instead of the SD style ones, but in the end it didn't really matter to me. Plus that game kinda already exists in the form of Gundam Breaker 3, so if you like that, you'll probably like this. I found myself taken back to a time when games were all about gameplay. The story's fine and everything, don't get me wrong, but it's the combat, collecting, and grinding that made this title so compelling for me. I know grinding isn't something that everyone's into, but for the first time in a long time, I stayed up to the early hours of the morning multiple times playing this game. I just couldn't put it down, it was so addictive collecting the suits, leveling them up, and simply engaging with the combat system. Visually, I think the suits look really nice for the most part, and they're very well animated, although they can look a little bit rough up close. There's a ton of mobile suits in this game and they're all faithfully recreated in the SD format. The environments are fine, I suppose. They do the job, but they are pretty basic with low-res textures here and there. I'd like to have seen much more detail in the worlds that you play in, but to be honest, when you consider how the combat works, the additional geometry would have probably just got in the way. One thing I found to be very well done is the presentation of each and every fight. There's just so many explosions, bullets, and bright particle effects all over the place at any one time. It really is rather entertaining to look at. In some of the darker missions, the effects do seem extra bright and can obscure your vision, but I don't think it's too much of an issue. To be fair to the game, it could just be the way my TV's calibrated, but I'm not 100% sure. Combat-wise, I think it feels a little bit clunky when you first get into the game and learn how to fight. But the more you play and the more you level up, the more it starts to feel like a true Gundam game. Even if they're the same level, switching suits from something like a Zaku to an RX-782 can feel like an upgrade because in Universe it would be. Every suit in the game is viable, but Zaku is a mass-produced mobile suit while the RX-782 is a powerful Gundam, and you can literally feel that in the controls and movesets. In the early stages of the game, you'll be performing simple attacks, but given enough time, you'll be weaving between enemy suits, dodging attacks, and literally destroying hordes of enemies without even thinking about it. It's just got a very satisfying sense of progression, both in terms of the in-game unlocks and improving your actual combo skills. The game leverages and makes use of all of the official sound effects and music from the animes, making each and every attack that you launch both look and feel great to use. As for the things I didn't like, there's not actually that much to say, but I do wish some of the series had more suits available than others. In all honesty, I like pretty much anything to do with Gundam, but my favourite series will always be Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. Now, I haven't been able to unlock everything in the game yet, and there is some DLC suits coming. But that said, Wing only has Wing Zero and Epion, while some other series get 10 plus suits. I would have loved to have seen the main 5 Gundams, Shenlong, Death Scythe, Heavy Arms, Wing, and my personal favourite Sandrock, alongside Wing Zero, Epion, and perhaps Tallgeese. I understand that this is my personal bias, but it just seems odd to have it so lopsided in terms of ratios. The thing is though, it's not just Wing. This is true for a lot of the other Gundam shows that don't have many suits. I'm not going to say it's a big deal because it really isn't, but I would have liked to have seen some rosters cut down in order to add a few more to some others. The only other thing I can think of is that at higher difficulties and in late game missions, things like knockback can be irritating, and being able to guard against certain attacks feels almost impossible. There's so many attacks that feel unavoidable, and almost all of them knock you down. You can play around some of it, learn the enemy attacks and try to make use of perfect guards, but damn, it's difficult sometimes. I mean, it's not like they charge at you and instantly kill you or anything, that's not what I'm saying. It's just that some moves are super fast and the window for a perfect guard is so small that it's criminal. I have absolutely improved my perfect guards, but I do not see a future where I can do it consistently. It doesn't happen too often, but being knocked back or knocked down multiple times in a row from a seemingly unblockable attack halts combat and basically interrupts the fun, which honestly doesn't feel great. In my opinion, SD Gundam Battle Alliance is probably one of the best Gundam games I've ever played, alongside the likes of Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3 and Gundam Breaker 3. The broken history narrative is pretty cool, it's got good visuals, great effects, fun combat, and a somewhat addictive gameplay loop. Collecting all of the different suits by hunting down the blueprints, which can only be found in certain missions, was far more compelling than it had any right to be, and I will absolutely attempt to catch them all, so to speak. Ultimately, this one is an easy recommendation for me despite the lack of a physical copy and the additional DLC that was laid out before the game released. It's not a perfect game by any means, but from my experience, I think it's solid and I personally had a very good time with it. I think if you're a Gundam fan already and you're okay with the SD style, I just can't imagine you disliking this game. On the other hand, if you're not much of a Gundam fan but you like action RPGs and games where you can grind out unlockables, then I actually think this game is good enough for you to consider. Luckily though, you won't need to take my word for it as there is a demo available. So if you have any interest in this game at all, I would strongly recommend that you give the demo a try. If you enjoy the video, I really hope you'll consider subscribing, and if you like what I do and want to help support the channel, please check out the first link in the video description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.